What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Grizzly Tales,
Grizzly.
the grisliest show on the internet where we dive into murders and true crime. I'm Patrick Cloud.
I'm Persephanii.
I got a story that hits home literally.
Oh, no.
Not literally, like
okay.
I know the people,
Okay.
but it happened right in our backyard.
Wow.
And I have friends who are actively nervous about this case.
Wow.
Because they live in the same area. It's very, very strange, and it's like it's just one of those stories that you hear happening in your town, and it's very unsettling. It's a very unsettling story.
I wonder if this is the case that you brought, because there is a case that has had me quite shook.
You fall in this category.
Yes. Okay. Then I know exactly what you're talking
You do
about.
fall in
and
this
I
category
definitely
in
have
two ways.
Followed. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So if it's the same case that I'm thinking of, you are like on point with everything that you described already.
Unsettling is the key word of mine.
It has my parents unsettled.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we're talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What about yourself? I just gave a little hint.
See, mine is something that can happen to anyone. And it's really scary to me because this is a case where a woman was murdered by someone she called a friend.
It's crazy how much that happens as opposed to the opposite.
Right?
We're always taught about stranger danger as opposed to friend danger.
Right. And I've kind of gone down a slight rabbit hole of
Ain't no slight
cases of friends murdering friends. And it's just...
It's almost all of them.
It's horrible to think that somebody that you trust, I mean, we're friends, we tripping, we go. I couldn't imagine anything happening to either one of us as friends, And so I wonder if these are friendships like that, where you trust this person with your life and ultimately they end up taking it. Is like...
That, to me, was a big lesson, because it showed me that when people go to this state that you don't think people go to often, they usually just go after who they have access for.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's very rarely about that person. And then when it is, you hear about, like, it was a crime of passion. That's why they stabbed him 80 times.
Right.
But a lot of times it just be like one or two things. For me, it's either weak, like preying on the weaker, like some people have a problem with this person who could do something back, but they take out, problems with their life, their job, all this stuff. They'll just go home and, take it out on their wife or something like that.
Right, the punching bag at home.
Or it can just be a situation where it's like access, like you're not really around your enemies as much. So when you snap, you're more than likely going to affect the people that's just around you who actually care about you and been trying to help.
Right. And that's so unfortunate, because you could be a good person living a good life and trying to help, someone get to, your level of security and confidence, and they just don't have the capacity, or, I've been in situations where I was betrayed by people that I called my friend. Now, thank goodness it didn't end in, murder or whatnot. But I did realize, like, okay, I do have to be more careful with who I call my friend. And I can't be that savior, because they won't take it as you're trying to help me. They'll take it as you think you're better than me.
Yep.
And when you have someone like that, that's in that mindset of you think you're better than me, there is literally nothing you could say to help them, because they think you're trying to sun them.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's like, no, I want the best for you. I want us to, be thriving and be on our stuff. But for you, it's like, for the other person, it's like, oh, well, you think you better and you think you can tell me what to do? Well, I'm going to show you this, or, I'm going to show you that. And it's unfortunate that people have to deal with that but the person doesn't really see how dangerous that situation can be.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the theme of your story is perspective, because like I feel like if you're a caring person, you're not ever really looking at it from other people's perspective. You're just like, this is the situation, this is how I can help. This is the situation, I'm gonna be there, blah, 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 blah. But I learned that you really have to not only look at what you want to add, but also look at the other person and what they're going through. Because if they're just in a mental state where they're not going to accept it, doesn't matter how helpful you are. And this isn't even just about being murdered. This is just period. Like if you have if you notice that they're in a state where they're not going to be accepting of your help or anything, you just gotta pay attention to that. That's why I make it a point to like see how other people are thinking, because it's not just about how I'm thinking. And a lot of times we encounter problems because we expect ourselves from other people, because we know exactly how we're thinking, but you don't know that the person you're talking to is about to snap. You don't know that it's so crazy. I once went to Little Tokyo with a group of friends, and there's this white dude who was just like, we were all talking amongst ourselves, but the white dude was watching the staff, and the staff were like these very, very young Japanese women, and you can tell they were understaffed and underpaid, and they were just under a lot of stress. And we knew that because they were just trying to take our order, and they made like a little mistake, and we didn't care, but they were just like overly apologetic, just like grabbing their and we were just like, hey, yo,
like, relax.
It's all good.
It's okay.
And he tapped me. He was just like, hey, she's about to snap. And I've always remembered that because it wasn't like a violent type of thing. It just, it almost seemed like she was just about to have a panic attack or something. But that's kind of set with me because it was like, damn, he watched and saw how she was acting, was like, he downloaded her mental state.
And that's kind of how we felt in Cabo with the workers when I think they forgot a fork or something like that. And we asked for a fork and they were just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And we were sitting there like,
we processed that as like, there's probably some assholes who've been here who gave them a tough time.
Right.
But to your point, that it could have been other stuff that's going on.
But they were so frantic about something that for us was quite small.
Right.
That we were like, oh, they are stressed. And we didn't even feel comfortable like putting more stress on them like that. And I feel like with those situations, people in their private life, because we have our public life and we have our private life. And then we have the life that our friends see. So that's not necessarily our public life. You know, our friends get to see a different side that we show the public.
Right.
And then our friends don't see the private side that we don't show anyone.
Right.
So people can have that private side away from their friends where they're going through stuff that's too embarrassing to tell their friends, or, you know, they don't feel comfortable, or, you know, when friends are comfortable with you, they roast you. Like, they don't know that you're going through some super serious stuff.
That roast could be the thing that pushes them over.
And then, you know, sometimes with your mindset, you put yourself in certain situations that cause desperation. You know, you borrow from someone who is not safe to borrow from, or, you know, and then you got to figure out ways to do X, Y, and Z.
You're digging yourself a hole.
You dig yourself holes, and you expect your friends to get you out. And if they can't, you know, then
you turn on them.
You turn on them because they're the closest people to you, and they're doing okay. How you gonna be my friend and you doing okay and I'm not, and you not helping me? You know. Unbeknownst to you.
I've been turned on multiple times from that. And that's why I love this conversation, because it was like, was it my fault? Absolutely not, you know?
Right.
But it's like, I may have seen it coming had I processed the other person's perspective and point of view more. Just because, it's tough. I like the whole private life versus, you know, public life, because we only talk about that with social media. Social media is like, Instagram is our highlight reels, and then no one knows the bad stuff we're going through. But it's like that in real life. We give off our Instagram perspective, you know, like we give off like, we're doing good, we're fine.
Right.
You have no idea, and all that other stuff is
piling
tucked away.
Up.
So
yeah,
I think we're saying all this to say, be careful how you treat people out here.
Be careful how you treat people and understand the signs in people that you befriend. Understand them. Because they will, even though they have that private life, they'll show you signs that they are not there, that they're unstable. And as a friend, you want to have that unconditional like love for your friends.
Right.
And so that unconditional love
could get you killed.
Could get you killed.
No, that's not the point of this show, but
it could. And
we've done a couple Grizzly Tales today, so after a while, I got to start processing some type of things to say to help myself and other people, because it's just like, damn, I can't just be reading all these murders back to back.
I mean, it's definitely like draining on your mental. So I'll just since we had that whole conversation, I'll just go ahead and slide into mine, because that's what we're talking about. So Texas man confesses to beating teen with a hammer, stabbing her to death in a fit of rage.
Hammer. Can I just say that hammer is the worst murder weapon out there.
I mean, it's just, I always, whenever I see a hammer, I like in the movies and stuff, when they have that as a weapon, I can't watch the swing. And I can't, if I will make a sound so I don't hear a crack. Skulls, bones cracking for me just don't.
Just from blunt force object, that I would rather be stabbed. Because like, you're a fan of Dexter. Dexter's my shit. The show.
I love Dexter.
The scene with the Trinity killer, he was killing with hammers. He had this one scene where he hit him a couple times, and then it showed a close up of his hammer, and he flipped it so it went to the claw side.
Oh no!
I was like, bro, this is the worst murder weapon possible.
Yeah, I can't watch that. I can't. I'll close my eyes. Yeah, I can't watch any type of like really blunt force object to the head, or like, because hammers are heavy on one end, and I have a whole like toolkit at home, and I have like an assortment of hammers, and some of them are really big and they're just heavy. I'd be like, so I can't imagine like the momentum.
Yeah.
And when I was younger and in school, I used to, when I got in fights, I couldn't bear the thought of actually hurting someone. So when I got ready to punch, I literally lost all the strength. I would. You
pulled your punches?
I did, because I just couldn't bear.
Me and my brother
to
pulled our punches when we fought.
Yeah, and so that's why I was like, I'm just not a fighter. So to imagine just like a hammer and actually like allowing the momentum to just connect and crack and just like.
And you in a rage, so you swinging as hard as you can? Yeah, nah.
It is just gruesome.
Well, I like how cryptic we've been in terms of our actual stories. This was probably the best drum roll we've had so far.
Yeah.
So let's get into this hammer time. I'm excited.
A Texas man was arrested Tuesday after he allegedly confessed to beating a high schooler with a hammer, strangling her, and then stabbing her to death when he realized she was still alive in an apparent fit of rage.
Oof. The murders where they think they're done, and then they turn around like hours later and they're still like gurgling, like,
right.
I'd be feeling so bad for the victims.
Right. And I was like, damn, she could have
suffered.
Yeah, but it'd be like well, I already know this story, so I'm not going to give it away.
Okay, yeah, I was just throwing that in there.
Okay. Britton, 19, was charged with murder after officers found the body of 18-year-old Deja Hood in a creek bed behind his apartment building in Tyler.
Deja Hood.
Deja Hood.
That's a great name.
Hood, a student at John Tyler High School, was reported missing by family members at 12:40 a.m. Tuesday after she had gone out with friends, including Britton, Monday evening and didn't return home or respond to calls and texts, according to the outlet. Officers who arrived at Britton's apartment to question him around 1 p.m. Tuesday noticed blood in his apartment and found her body wrapped in trash bags, tape, and bed sheets behind the Holly Tree apartment complex, according to an arrest warrant affidavit obtained by the local newspaper. The suspect eventually confessed to killing the teen and disposing of her body and told police a detailed account of his horrific actions. He said he picked up Hood and a 1-year-old baby who she was babysitting from her apartment Monday night so she could help him pack for a move. Once back at his place, Britton said he was alone in the kitchen and began thinking about his recent breakup with his now ex-girlfriend and grew angrier and angrier, according to the affidavit. He said Hood walked over to him and playfully tugged on his ear, which was something his ex would often do. The action sent Britton into what he described as a fit of rage, and he told cops he grabbed a glass bottle, which he used to whack Hood in the back of her head, sending her falling to the ground, the document states. He then allegedly punched and strangled her, he told officers, before using a hammer to hit her in the head over and over until its wooden handle snapped off.
That's crazy for a hammer. That's crazy for a hammer.
You broke a hammer on her head?
It's those specific details that I know were just like crazy to hear from the family. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you hit her with a hammer till the hammer handle broke.
That is crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Hammers are literally built to hit stuff.
Yeah. They're hard objects at that.
Right.
You know, so the
crazy.
fact that you broke it on a human?
I've never held a feeble hammer in my life.
Nope. Britton then attempted to kill himself with a knife, but failed, and then held a gun, which he had brought earlier that day, to his head when a neighbor knocked on the door, according to his statements to the police.
That means he really didn't want to go.
No.
Because he didn't cut himself the right way, and then the
Right.
knocking of the door stopped him from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Britton covered the body and answered the door. The person had heard a commotion and was checking to see if he was all right, the document states. After assuring the person he was okay, the alleged killer remembered the 1-year-old baby watching a movie on his bed and decided to bring the child to the victim's mother's house, he told the police. So you killed her
And then brought
a baby to her mom's house?
And she was just like, where's my daughter?
When he returned home, he told cops that he heard Hood calling his name, according to the affidavit. He allegedly stabbed her multiple times after he realized she was still alive. So for me, when I hear that, that's you left her in the house. And that's where I'm like, fuck, I wish she could have got away because you left.
But I mean,
and she was still alive.
He hit her with a wine bottle, punched her, strangled her, and hit her with a hammer. So if she was alive, I'm assuming it was barely.
It was barely, but if she was cognizant enough to say his name.
But maybe that's it. Like it never said she was moving. Like if you were hit with a hammer like that, I don't think you have, you barely holding on.
She can't move. But that's when I wish somehow like the neighbor could have just like really understood like something was really wrong. You know how you have intuitions that something is really wrong? Like I can feel.
But I feel bad for those people too, because like I can't imagine being in a situation that you think is just totally normal and then finding out like a day later that you were at a horrible crime scene and you could have helped.
It's like the Jeffrey Dahmer case with the young Asian boy who had
never finished.
Oh, the young there was an underage Asian boy that had stumbled out of his apartment, drugged, naked. You know, the neighbor saw, called the police. Police showed up. He was disoriented. Jeffrey Dahmer was like, no, this is my gay lover or whatever. I'll take him in and take care of him. And then
that was it.
They let him take him back.
Even though he was drugged and underage?
They didn't know.
They didn't know he was drugged?
They didn't know. They thought, because, back then, drugs was rampant. But they thought that, the way he explained it was like, this is my gay lover. I'm embarrassed.
Also,
let me get him
back
covered
then,
up.
When you said gay, people were just like, oh, okay, y'all into some wild stuff then, huh?
And
it's
so
just like,
it was just, that was an opportunity to save that man, and they didn't.
That's crazy.
You know,
that's way more obvious too, because that was a clear cry for help. But
this one, she's left alone, and she's just like saying his name, and he hears it, and he's like, because it's like you already kind of came back to your senses because you took the kid.
So he can't blame it on just it being a moment in time. He was down to do this. He came back. He could have been like, oh snap, she's still alive. I can
save her.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you think I can save her?
Because he wanted to kill her.
He was going to go to jail either way. Britton then wrapped and taped her body and carried it out of his apartment around 3 a.m. and threw her remains over a fence out of sight, and returned around 7 a.m. to cover the body with leaves. So you threw the body over a fence out of sight and let it sit there for 4 hours before you came back to cover it?
You left and then came back, and your cover up was still trash. Leaves. Right. There's just going to be a pile of leaves for the rest of time.
Right.
That's crazy.
Britton was arrested and charged with the murder and terroristic threat of the family/household. He is being held on a $1.5 million bond in the Smith County Jail, according to the Tyler Morning Telegraph.
This story kind of gets under my skin more than others. Just because it's like, this is a genuinely scary story for more than one reason. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there is a human instinct to, whenever you hear about something horrible, people just try to ask, like, why? You know, people want a why so bad. It's just like, oh, why did it happen? Why did it happen? And that's why I feel like, this is a little deeper, but the Black community kind of struggles in media because, like, whenever somebody does something crazy, in the headline, they'll put, like, thug or, like, drug dealer. Or after somebody is killed, they'll be like, but they used to do this and they used to do that, because in people's minds, they
justify why that person should have been killed. That's why
they were killed. And then that helps them with their own mortality, right? But with something like this was a girl who was just known to be just like a bright light, just like helping everybody, really, really nice, to the point where she was actually... First of all, she was helping him move, which is terrible.
I hate.
I don't even ask. Move. I just find out what the moving company charges, and I go with that, because I can't. At this point, I can't even ask anybody, because I know how much I personally hate it. And asking somebody to move and them actually doing it means you have a solid friend on your team.
Yes, look, I pay, and I offer to cook for my friends that help me move, because I know, like, they don't want to do it.
It's not a fun thing. You're spending a whole day. It's physical labor, and the biggest thing on top of that is that there are people who do this professionally. So it's just like, why would you ask? And it all breaks down to, I'm just trying to save some money, right?
Right. So she was busy, like, she was unavailable.
She had an excuse. Oh, I'm helping someone else, pretty much. I'm babysitting a 1-year-old. She was just like, why not consolidate my helpfulness? I'll watch this 1-year-old and help this nigga move. She goes over there, and why it's so scary is, like, I would think that if you showed up for somebody that much, even if they were crazy, they'd be like, well, not them. They're a good friend.
Right.
So she was not only there for him, and the only reason she got killed was because she was helpful.
And she was being playful with him. You're my friend. I should be able to be playful. That's like me going, got your nose, and you're like, ah! Like,
right. But I would believe he would have killed anybody who was with him that day.
Okay.
I don't think he would have gotten to a fit of rage and just drove to her house specifically.
So you don't think that what she did actually, like, reminded him of his ex-girlfriend?
No, maybe.
It just, anybody who could have been around while he was just feeling down.
He was clearly in a state where he was like, if anything happens, I'm about to kill somebody. You know what I mean? I don't think it was specific to her. I don't think it was specific to what she did. I think that may have been the trigger. But I don't think if something else triggered him, he would have drove to her house randomly and killed her.
Either way,
so now it's
was
like,
get it.
Damn, the person who agreed to help me move. Just so that happened to be the reason why they were at my house when I snapped, and that's how they died. So just what's crazy to me is like she was a helpful friend. I couldn't imagine her being the type of person to help him move and then do that ear thing to fuck with him. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, hey, I know your girl used to do this. It was probably just like something playful, like, you'll get over it.
Right.
And then the manner of how he killed her, it made it seem like, damn, like, this wasn't your girl. Like, why did you kill her passionately?
I think he was probably how he felt about his girlfriend breaking up with him. He might have visualized her as his girlfriend and what he wanted to do to her for breaking up with him.
Absolutely.
And just completely unleashed
and that's why
the dragon on her.
That's why this is a scary story, because it's like, it's not only wrong place, wrong time times 1,000, because usually wrong place, wrong time was just like, I shouldn't have taken this bus here.
Right.
It's not like helping your friend and just being there with him. So it's also like, you know, killing your friend, but then it's also just like, damn, people are willing to crash out at this level over a girlfriend. Like, I've heard murder stories where it's like, oh, this person was done so bad, I could see why they thought, I gotta kill this person. You know, this was just like, bro, like the normal person would be just like, yeah, get over it, you'll find somebody else. It's those people who are just like willing to throw everything away over something that's small, like a who they're with, like a woman, or just like a situation like, oh, you stepped on my shoes, or just like, oh, my clout has been embarrassed. I have to do this because you did this. But those are the dangerous people to me.
So if I dive into the psychology behind that, when we're younger and we're in our teens, we're trying to figure ourselves out. We're trying to become individuals. We're breaking away from what we were taught from our parents and trying not to be like them. And we're trying to figure out our individuality. And I think certain situations, I feel like teenage love sometimes is way more passionate than like adult love.
Because they think that's it.
Because, yeah. And so I remember that connection and being in love as a teenager, and just, he was my world. He did me dirty. I was heartbroken.
That's probably why people get heartbroken when they're teenagers, and then use that as a base for the rest of their relationships.
So that's like, okay, I learned from this situation. I was blind. This hurt, but ultimately I got through it. I found somebody else. I felt good about those relationships. I relied on my support system, my friends, my family. Some people don't have that to rely on, so going into that, trying to figure out who I am. And then I attach to this person who I now just like, is my world. They're the center of my universe. And now they don't want me. What the fuck? And so for
that's how
some
you get
people,
them whole like, if I can't have you, no one else can. That's scary to me.
So that person then has grown the type of attachment that doesn't allow them to see life past being with them.
Right.
It kind of stops right there. It's like, we have to be together forever because I can't imagine my life without you. And I think for him, maybe there's some of that with his ex-girlfriend, and she's
they had them intense relationships that I never wanted, where they just be holding each other's faces, just like, I can't live without you. Like, get that Shakespeare shit out of here.
And it was probably more him than her. She probably saw the signs. She broke up with him.
Maybe that's why. But
that's what I'm
saying. I've seen crazy people who were both in a relationship and they were like everything to each other, but then one person out crazy the other person, you know? And they're just like, oh shit.
Right. So I think she may have seen like, okay, I gotta get out of this because this is too much.
Yep.
And then boom.
Y'all gotta be careful out here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
And so that's just, it's really sad. So prayers to Deja's family.
For sure. So avoidable. Like, the fact that it breaks down to him telling the police that he killed her because she touched his ear is terrifying. That's so scary to me. And
But that's what the phrase, the straw that broke the camel's back, that was the straw.
That's the thing. It's impossible to know everybody's straw.
You can't know it.
And it's like, I feel like at one point I was just like, okay, I was insanely lucky. I was able to grow up and logically break down things, right? And as someone who isn't willing to crash out, I'm just not, like, there's all the situations that we're talking about and going over, like, I'm just not really willing to crash out. Finding out that people are crashing out over really nothing is a really scary epiphany. You know what I mean? It's like a very scary thing to learn about the world, especially if you yourself know, like, oh, this person killed somebody over a girl. I would never. This person killed somebody over stress. I would never. This person, blah, 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 blah. Like, knowing that people are really willing to throw everything away over nothing is probably the craziest thing I've learned in the last 2 years.
There's a movie. There's a movie about road rage. Actually, it's a show. I know exactly what you're talking about. The Asian one, right? Yes. Beef.
Yep.
Beef.
Great example of that.
Exactly. It was like
mostly
that
about
situation,
all the other shit they're going through.
Right. It was the straw, that honk, that extended honk.
To each other, it was a parking spot, but to each of them individually, it was a whole timeline worth of stuff. And that's what I found out, where I'm like, oh, I'm out. Because I can logically break down what's happening real time. But if what's happening has to do with other stuff, there's no reason to argue it. You either has to figure out a way to get out of there or not put yourself in that situation at all. Because it's like, that goes back to what we were saying in the other episode about just sending your kid to a public school with just whoever. Putting yourself around people who their environment is just on a random, like, you know, them little random things like just could land on anything. That's probably the most dangerous thing you can do.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not worth trying to figure out.
And that's why
tough for.
Just think about it. Like, parents, they won't allow you to go over to a friend's house if they haven't met the parent yet. So it's like, okay, you can't go to their dwelling because you haven't met the parent yet. And then when you do meet the parent, you have to make a decision whether you want your kid around them or not.
This is who's in charge of this house?
But then going to school, you don't have any control whether that kid is around that kid or not.
You could talk to the teacher. You could talk to the principal. You could talk to a couple of parents in the same class. But you talking about, okay, your student is on a block filled with people that you don't know. And that's including the people who live around there. Then they're going to classes with students, with parents in environments that you don't know. And then all of that is led by teachers that you don't know, where at least they had to go through some type of system to figure out if they were crazy or not. But then it's just like, what city are you in? You know what I mean? There are cases of people who just walk on campus and just do shit, you know? So it's literally like, honestly, just from this day of Grizzly shoots, I feel like sending your child to school is one of the biggest crapshoots you can do in life.
But look at just yesterday, I saw a video of a teacher that said, and I think these are elementary school kids, that it was an LGBTQ teacher who had the kids go into the closet and then come out and say their sexual orientation. And the kids that identified as LGBTQIA+ is elementary school. She gave a cupcake to. But the kids that came out of the closet and said that they were heterosexual, she gave nothing to.
So they were just like, damn, I don't get a reward for being straight?
Cupcake or nothing. But this is a teacher's doing.
That's crazy.
So in order, so you don't even know as a parent that the teachers have an agenda as well. Some of them.
And that could have just been an academic agenda that was fucked up.
Right.
But it's like, what if that set off a parent in the class, you know?
It's just some things that you can't shield your kid from going to school, and they're going to experience, and it should help with them growing their individuality. But at the same time, you never know like what lessons they're really taking, because kids a lot of times learn more from their environment than they do in the home setting. Like sometimes they're trying to get away from everything that's in the home setting, and they're trying to really learn from outside influences.
That's why sheltered kids have it the worst. Because the parents are they're so obsessed with the fact that like if it's in my house, I teach everything. And it's like, no, you teach 40%.
Right.
But if they're just like shield, that's going to give your child a natural inclination to be like, well, what is this stuff about? Now they're with the exact opposite people that you wanted them to be with just to figure that out. And it's just like, where they go is so more influential than what's at the house. That's why there's so many perfect families that are just like, I don't know what happened. We were perfect, you know? And it's just like, yeah, I think that it's like, instead of trying to shelter somebody and be like, none of that exists, just do this. I feel like the opposite is being like, all of this exists, but you just got to stay strong and be tough. That's why this is super random. But it felt like in middle school and high school, when all the dudes were listening to rappers and seeing how we can smash, how we can get the draws.
Y'all was thinking about that in middle school? Goodness gracious.
There were the kids who had no idea about that, like, what the hell? No. Then there was the hoes who there guess...
was hoes in middle school?
Yes. You got to understand, this starts somewhere. I don't know where they probably got it from somewhere. You know, maybe they had a bunch of sisters, maybe they had a mom, or maybe they're just in that environment. But they would start doing it. But the most powerful women in middle school and high school, and I can attest to this, are the ones who were told how everyone else was going to be and how they should be. It wasn't necessarily about don't do this, do this. It was like, yo, this is what the boys is going to try to do. This is what the girls are going to do. You just have to understand that you yourself can't do that. Now they have the confidence to be like, oh, okay, this is going to be everybody but me.
So it's not sheltering them.
Like, it's letting them know.
Like I said, oh, don't ever do this. This is what's going to happen. Don't ever do this. But it's more so like you might be put in a situation where you have to make a decision to do X, Y, and Z.
You're going to be in a corner by yourself.
Right. My hope is that you choose the right decision. Don't ever feel pressured to do anything by anyone.
That's learning.
Yes. That's teaching as well, because it's like, you know, you can't really fully prepare your child for what they're going to experience in school, but you can give them a heads up. And it's like, for me, it's like giving me a heads up, like, oh shit. That's where your respect from your child comes from, because if you can predict that you may be put in this situation, and I feel prepared as a child, like, oh, my parent told me about this situation and now I'm here. But like, I have the tools. Too. Yeah, it's scary.
Because you're giving them the idea of tools, but you don't know if you're going to use them. You know, you can give somebody a toolbox, but you don't know if when the nail comes, they're going to use the screwdriver or the hammer. Right. So it's like, that's why I see people failing when they send their shit, when they send their kids.
Send their shit? That's what you think of children?
Yes.
Little shits?
When they send their kids to private schools, and then they wonder why they're graduating high school and they square as hell, that's because you chose to spend that time and be lazy and be like, all right, I'm sending them to a place where there's only rich people, there's only good things, I don't have to do my job. But now you got a 20-year-old who's like going into parties just like do, and you're just like, hey, you got to realize, and that's why I liked that interview of Floyd Mayweather when he said he went to his daughter's private school and he saw that she was the only black person, and he switched her to public because that was a better simulation of life. And I agree with that. Yeah. But the problem with that is that in that simulation of life, you can have them attached to stuff that's really fucked up in real life. Yeah. So it's like, if you give them that simulation, but also let them know like this is the rules, you have to, you know, choose the right thing. And then, you know, I honestly, I'm not about to start giving like parental advice, but I just think that for me, what worked on me was going to a public school, seeing how life was, and making my decision based on the guidance that I got, as opposed to being forced certain things.
Right.
Because being forced a certain thing, especially when you're young and like rebellious, you just want to do the opposite just because it's the opposite.
For sure.
But giving your child the space, like one thing that I'll always give my parents credit for is they gave me the like freedom to just like do me. Not in terms of like guidance. They gave you the freedom
to be yourself.
Not just that, but just like, you know how like a lot of parents are like, no girls, no boys, like you can't do nothing. When I turned 18, actually I was 16, but it was for my 18th birthday. They like turned the duplex that we were staying at, the garage, into like a little studio, like a little hangout.
That was your 18th birthday present, but when you were 16.
When
so
I was
they gave
16.
it to you 2 years early?
Right. And before that, because it took 2 years to build fully.
Oh, okay.
But up until then, we had like slight rules about having girls over and stuff. But they told me about getting pregnant. They told me about getting STDs. So once I had that in my mind, they were just like, you make those decisions. Now, we're not running a brothel. It's not like you can just have like girls over all the time. But I will admit, like I had the access to have girls sleep at my house in a safe way, because my mom also was big about that. She was always like, if it's too dark, if it's raining, blah, 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 make sure that you don't have women driving. So did I get a little piece of coochie earlier than other people? Yes. But I feel like the lasting effect of that was it got to a point where like I noticed that the sheltered friends that I had were like, once they were living on their own, they were just like, girls. And for me, it was just like, even at my parents' house, I developed the fact that it was just like, no, this ain't that. This is just a safe place for them to be. Or just like, I don't know. It just like the lack of sheltering me from that kept me from being thirsty from that, you know? And I feel like that's a huge thing with kids, because like all of the preacher's daughters who are just don't be fast. And it's almost like forced on them.
It's like
you already know what it is.
Yeah. And I went to private school too. So I went to private school, so I seen what it is there, you know, and I definitely gone to church. So I saw what it was there. And so, yes, I think ultimately how you raise your kid is a direct line to the people that they choose to associate with and bring into their lives.
Very true.
To kind of circle back to Deja Hood and her story, it's, you know, I don't know how her parents raised her, but they may have raised her to be a kind, loving, helpful soul to help fix others, or to just be there unconditionally for a friend and bring that light when their friends are in the dark place. And unfortunately, that could have led to her demise. Yeah. And that's sad. It's really sad. Because
that was nothing wrong on their part. You know what I mean? She was there being probably the daughter they wanted. You know what I mean? She was helping a little baby and her friend at the same time. That's just an unfortunate situation. But let's move on to the next unfortunate situation, and this is happening in our home of downtown Los Angeles. 2 models found dead in their Los Angeles apartments just days apart. Now, this is, like I said, keyword is unsettling.
Very.
These were 2 black women. They were also models.
I'm a model.
Like I said, she falls into both of these categories. And it
happened in Los Angeles.
And it happened in LA. Black women, they both modeled. People were wondering if this was like a serial killer type thing, you know? Were these things related? Whatever it was.
Are you going to set the record straight for us?
The 2 deaths were not related.
They weren't?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, kind of want to save that for the end, but whatever.
Oh. I thought they were.
They were not tied together, but
But
just to throw that out there, before forensics was a thing and they even knew about serial killers, they just assumed that anyway. So it could just be an assumption, but as of now, they are not tied
it wasn't
together.
no crazy man from Tinder.
I don't know if it was like a
model,
like a black model serial killer, like that's what they were targeting. That's not what it is as of now.
It makes it even more.
And again, this was mid-September. So yeah, Los Angeles, the deaths of 2 models whose bodies were found in their respective downtown apartments within days are unrelated, and only one is being investigated as a homicide.
Whoa, what?
Yeah. So Melissa Mooney, who was the sister of a pop star named Jordan Pauline, was found dead on September 12th, shortly before 4 p.m. Officers responded to a call for a welfare check, and she also worked as a realtor. And she was found dead in her home. But then a second model, Nicole Coates, 32, was found dead 2 days earlier inside her apartment about a mile away from where Mooney, who 31, was killed. This was all within a mile. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't really be believing the police like that, period. So them saying they weren't unrelated, I don't believe that. Not saying that they were lying, but they could just not have all the information yet.
Right.
But a mile apart is kind of crazy.
A mile apart and days apart, right?
2 days earlier. Yep.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Police Department is investigating Mooney's death as a homicide, but is waiting for a county medical examiner's report on Coates to determine whether to investigate her death. The decision has angered Coates' relatives, who said she appeared to have died violently.
Right.
I believe it was murder. I really do, says her aunt. One of her legs was up in the air in a kicking position. That's not somebody who just laid in their bed and died.
Her leg was in the air?
Police says the deaths are not linked, despite apparent similarities between the women, including their ages, professions, and addresses. I wonder how similar their addresses are. Just because they're close, or is it like the same number? That was a very interesting thing to include on the report. We can't assume things, the police officer said. We're not going to start jumping to conclusions because we don't know what happened. There is no immediate threat to the public, he added.
How do you know that if you don't know who did it? She's gorgeous, by the way. Wow.
Yeah, they're very pretty. Her sister says, I keep waking up crying, thinking I'm in a bad dream. We will get justice for you, my sister. I promise you won't be gone in vain. The people you touched and loved will carry on for you and keep your name alive in the most beautiful and loving light. You did not deserve this at all.
Wow.
She was very pretty.
When social media gets a hold of titillating articles like this, investigations, they kind of go off on their own. So I heard so many different things about this case that said, like, if you go further into details about the crime scene, the person, they turned down the AC to where it was super, super, super duper cold in there to preserve the body so that, it didn't smell, and the decomposition. And then some of them, like the crime scene was so bloody, like the bodies were so battered that they had a hard time actually identifying victims. And they were so similar in nature that they felt like it was a homicide and done by the same person. And then I also read another article about this where the assailant was a man they met on like Tinder or something like that. And it was
really
a guy that was targeting Black women, Black models on Tinder. So there's so many different
almost conspiracies
surrounding this case, being that they were so close in proximity, so close in time. Even I think they might have even been close in age, similar looks, very beautiful, similar.
They were very similar in age too.
Similar professions. Like it was almost like the killer had a type, and they stumbled upon 2 women that were exactly what they were looking for in terms of getting.
I could totally see them going back on that and being like, "Oh, turns out it was related," you know?
Right.
Just because there's too many things. Black women, models, where they were, when it was. It's just so much that is pointing to this being related, and it might not have been. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people just be getting killed close
I don't
to each
believe
other,
in
you know?
coincidences like that.
To this extent,
You know?
I don't either.
Yeah. And so for them to only be investigating, first off, I feel like you should investigate everything. So for them to say that they're only investigating one of these as a homicide and the other, the family is saying like, clearly, if she died a violent death, chances are she didn't kill herself
themselves.
violently.
Well,
and
to
especially
me,
if you go into the history of women and women committing suicide,
pills,
it's less violent
yeah.
than men. It's not usually a gun.
Right.
It's either pills or it might not even be the slitting of the wrist. You know, it's usually
something
poison.
Calm. Yep.
You know, so for
I mean, to me, I feel like when something is very obviously fishy and the reports are different, I think that their paperwork or whatever they found is just leading them to not say that. It would be super unprofessional for a cop to be like, we don't have anything that links these two together, but I feel like they're together. Like that could start a media frenzy based on something that wasn't fact.
Right.
So I think that that's just lack of evidence on one of the cases. One of the cases, they didn't have enough, so they're just like, we don't think they're related, as opposed to like them dying the exact same way or like a calling card. Then they can go to the press and be like, okay, for sure. But like, I feel like the more that I get into like PR and like how things actually work, these are all just humans trying to cover stuff up, you know? So obviously all of LA, all of downtown LA for sure would be in a frenzy if they were just like, yeah, these are connected. I think that this is a serial killer. So I'm sure they're just trying to find something specific. But to me, I don't just write it off. I'm just like, oh, they're not related. Don't worry. I'm just thinking like one of them had substantially less evidence than the other one. And that's why they're not connected. But
and regardless, this
in the
person
black community,
is still out there.
Yeah, in the black community, 2 black women in the same, damn near on the same block, showing up dead. That's, I don't care what the news says. I'm glad that we're as a whole like nervous and being cautious, because the last thing that they actually say on the article was nothing's in vain. Learn from everything. Learn from this. If it makes you more cautious to tell a friend where you're going, do something. Don't just leave on your own, please.
Well, this is why we adopted the whole routine of, if you're going to go out with a new guy, I need to see his picture. I've sent pictures, address, phone number. Like I've sent the entire, basically,
we know you guys are better. What is it? Private investigators than the FBI. If the FBI had more black women in it, we would probably find out about all the terrorism on Earth.
For real. Because I mean, when I go down a rabbit hole of information that I need to know, I find out everything. I mean, I will find out what the cousin of the cousin's stepsister of the mother-in-law's profession was.
What is it? Don't Kill Cats or
yeah.
Whatever that documentary was on Netflix. Let me know the extent of people's investigations, and I know black women would have found that killer probably in half the time. So
definitely
there's that.
So I think social media has kind of jumped on this a little bit and tried to figure out like what happened to these beautiful women. And I don't know, but I think we're going to find out soon. So
I hope we do, because as someone who lives in LA, I just feel like that's probably the worst headline I've heard all year.
And it makes me, honestly, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have weaponry at home that I keep in pretty close proximity. But this actually made me keep it even closer in proximity.
I got ammo around my house and different spots. You know that Kevin Hart joke about hiding different weapons around the house? That's me.
Mm-hmm.
Except they're full weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not piecing them together.
Oh no. They are ready, cocked, rock, clock, block, and ready to rock. Is
Cocked,
it
blocked, and ready?
cocked? What is it? What's the phrase?
I've never heard that phrase. Definitely not cock blocked and ready to rock.
Cocked.
Maybe rocked.
No, it's ready to rock. It's cocked. I thought it was cock, block, and ready to rock.
I don't think it's cocked and blocked. All right. On a better note.
Oh, no. Cocked. No.
On a better note.
Clocked.
We are moving on. We are going to some good stuff. Let's get some smiles on y'all faces.
Okay.
How about this? This is a grandma appreciation post.
Okay. Come on, Grandma.
A Michigan grandmother hosts birthday parties just to help children who don't get invited to gatherings.
Aww.
A
so sad.
loser fest.
You're a part of the problem.
I'm not a part of the problem.
Calling it a loser fest.
I'm just saying, when I was a kid, I was invited.
Oh,
I'm just
okay,
saying.
Mr. Popular.
I'm just saying. So I think this is beautiful because it helps the unpopular and the losers. You said it, not me.
No, you said loser.
It lets
fest.
them be comfortable at a party, which is first of all, we're talking about kids here, so they can turn it around and be winners by the time they're older. But it's like if you just were born with that, weirdo.
I would say unique individuals.
If you're unique,
cannot relate.
So unique that no one invites you to a party though. Because that's the thing. I was unique. But it was like, oh, wow.
No, don't try to change it now, Mr. I was invited to everything.
No, I was.
I'm talking about the more unique than
my
you.
unique was like, oh, this is why we're going to invite you. Not like, oh, shit, he's unique. Don't tell him about this.
You're horrible.
I'm not horrible.
You're the ones not inviting people.
I'm also not invited to stuff, too. So I know how it is on both sides. So I feel like I'm still punching up on this. But yeah, she basically puts together all these gatherings and parties just with all the people that you don't want there at your party.
And those be some of the most fun people though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the parties she was
I hung out with people in high school and elementary school and junior high that people didn't find as popular, and they were funny. Their personalities were amazing.
The people I hang out with aren't the popular ones. Well, no, that's not okay.
Your friends are funny.
I'm a cool hybrid. I'm a cool hybrid because honestly, throughout middle school and high school, I was hanging out with both. I was hanging out with popular kids, and I was hanging out with the kids who were just like, "Dang, I thought you were different." That was a life-changing conversation for me. Somebody was like, "Oh, I thought you were different. I thought you were gonna be mean to us." No, I'm cool to everybody. So she's throwing these parties just for not for everybody's, right? And it's building their confidence for later. Now, are those specific parties popping? Probably not. But
probably because the way she puts it on probably makes it to where if they took footage of these parties, the other kids would be like, damn, I wish I got invited to that.
I can see that. That's optimistic thinking. Yeah. Michigan woman Ronnie Williams has a grandson who is on the autism spectrum. Okay, so I didn't read that part. I didn't know these were kids with autism. That's great.
I hope you're feeling bad now.
No, not at all. I'm feeling misinformed. She noticed that he was struggling to meet new friends and get invited to gatherings like birthday parties. This inspired her to begin hosting parties for her kids in her community. In her first year hosting the parties, 25 kids participated.
Whoa, that's a hell of a party.
Now that number has doubled.
A period. I told you her
kids.
Parties is cracking.
Yay. This is actually a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I thought she was just talking to kids like me that were like socially challenged. She's like, these are kids with like autism and stuff.
I'm telling you, these parties is jumping.
I would go to one of these. Well, that'd be kind of weird at my age now, but I feel like at that age, I would go to these parties.
And then what happens is those other kids that didn't get invited to that, they're
now
like,
this is the cool party.
Right. And now they're still not getting invited to it because, so it's kind of like, I don't want to say sword fighting.
You're causing another group of kids to be left out.
Yes and no.
But they experience popularity all the time.
It's like, oh, look where I went, because I mean, those type of kids would want to show like the popular kids, like, I did this
For sure.
and this was cool.
And I mean, so you have to be a pretty trash popular kid to be like, so what? That party was trash. You know, right. You would, at that point when it's happening, you should address it. And hopefully what she's doing is showing the inclusion or shining a light on the inclusion so that those other popular kids will be like, oh, dang, we didn't invite them. That's why they have their own party. So let's start including. You know what I'm saying? Well, all right. This Grizzly Tales had some meat on it.
It did. It was like a turkey leg.
Those do have meat on it.
Yeah.
It's a good example. All right. Well, I hope you guys learned something from this. This wasn't just the murder and stuff. This was some social commentary as well.
Absolutely. We usually don't do that with Grizzly Tales.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I liked it.
I'm okay with
I enjoyed the combo.
Well, we appreciate you guys as always. We will see you on the next horrible story. I've been Patrick Cloud.
I'm Persephanie.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.